What if the comps that you're trusting are actually jeopardizing your sports card business? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the dirty little secrets behind sports card comps, how they're used, misused, and the massive risk that collectors are walking into every single day. I want to go in depth on the flaws that I see and the mistakes inexperienced collectors make that eat them alive. In the sports card world, comps are king. They're how we value our cards, negotiate deals, and decide what cards we buy. Here's the thing that nobody really tells you. Not all comps are made equal. If you're new to the hobby or have just been doing it on the side for a little bit, there are a few brutal mistakes that I think really eat away at a collection's value and tank bank accounts. I've seen it happen, and most of these are actually kind of personal anecdotes. So in short, here's the kind of a spark notes. 1, always verify your comps. 2, don't rely on one type of card, player, position, things like that. Learn grading discrepancies. Why is a PSA 10 worth twice as much as a Beckett 10? The world may never know. Set a filter on what information you're taking it in. Just because a sports card influencer is buying a player heavy doesn't mean that you necessarily should. And then know your emotions. Don't buy out of FOMO. That's how you get caught holding Jimmy Garoppolo cards. What's up, you guys? My name's Connor. This is Cards and Canvas, where I document the journey and the process of building a sports card and art business from the ground up. I'm having a lot of fun showing off the process. As you can see here, this custom hand-painted Patrick Mahomes jersey that I just wrapped up this week. I'm working on a deal with a local frame shop to get this framed up and hung for my client. Pretty stoked about that. But just wanted to give you a shout. If you're into sports cards, if you're into art, or you just enjoy the process and the tips that I give in these videos, please consider subscribing and tagging along. One inflated comp on eBay, or maybe even a fake sale, can just completely cause a market to go up. And it's really fragile, it's really volatile. Very rapidly, people start pricing their cards off fantasy numbers. And I'm not talking about fantasy football. Not everybody's shady in this hobby, and in fact, I think most of the hobby's pretty positive and welcoming. But whenever there's an opportunity to make money, people's true colors get revealed pretty quickly. Let's go more in depth on the tips that I think will help you the most when comping sports cards so that you can feel more confident when making smart purchases for your collection. I think a common pitfall is lack of cross-verification across platforms. So you might have noticed recently that eBay will show that an item's sold for its full listing price, even if it was a best offer. The best way I know to negate this is to use an app like 130point or Card Ladder to see what a card truly sold for, getting a really accurate comp. Right when eBay made this change, I got bit pretty bad a couple of times. And even when I was listing my own cards, there was a few things that weren't moving because I was looking at what I thought they had sold for. Like, I thought a few cards had sold for like 135, best offers were 99. And so I was listing them at about 140, 135, thinking they would sell, and they weren't. And the reason was I was way overpricing my stuff because I was using bad comps. It's not like they don't list it anymore. They used to have this best offer accepted that was crossed out. Now they don't. So you have to really be careful with eBay comps. Auctions are still accurate. You can go onto 130point and see the discrepancy really easily. So that's what I use now. Another thing that's super easy to fall into is fear of missing out. The hype cycle in the hobby. Everybody else is buying these cards. I'm seeing reels of these guys buying $15,000 one-of-ones of the rookie quarterback. And now everybody's grabbing their rookie cards like it's free money, which obviously it rarely is. Well, this really causes volume and sales to pop up. And I think it's a great time for me to sell my inventory. I lean into it a little bit. It's kind of this artificial inflation of card prices that's very short-lived. That's because people are buying out of fear of missing out and not so much years of data, scarcity, and concrete demand for that card. For example, you look at the shiny quarterback of the year, CJ Stroud a couple years ago, Jaden Daniels this last year, and then going forward into this year, is it going to be Shedeur? Is it going to be Cam Ward? There's going to be an absolutely insane jump. If Cam Ward has a game where he throws for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns, his card prices are going to go up 30%. I'm telling you right now, don't buy into that hype. The card prices won't stay there. Although, like I said, those opportunities are times that I will list inventory I'm holding, because if you don't lean into that, it's just bad business. When negotiating a deal, something that I see come up quite a bit is using bad comps or misleading comps. Pretty often you'll see a card that normally sells for about $100. All of a sudden it goes for $40, $50, $60, and you say, well, what the heck? And then you'll notice read description in the title of that. That's because it's dinged. It looks like a toddler freaking chewed on it. And then all of a sudden everybody that comes up to your table, your booth, your eBay, they're wanting to buy the card for 80% of that flawed comp. And to me, that's a pretty big flaw in the hobby right now. For one, I think it's kind of manipulative if you know that it's a damaged card and you're using it as a comp. That is definitely one to be very careful of and to avoid when going through negotiations. Honestly, I think a lot of this advice kind of goes hand in hand whether you're a buyer or a seller. So now let's go into something that I think every collector's fallen into here and there, and that's buying off of emotional bias for a player. You know, for example, I'm a Chiefs guy. I live in KC, so when I see a cool Patrick Mahomes that I think's a little under comps, I'm pretty tempted to pay up for it. But since I live in Kansas City, the local card shows, they'll take advantage of that because they know people are going to be biased towards these players and they try to leverage it. It might have got me a couple times here and there. But a very common application for this bias is after a player makes a big play or they're in the mainstream, you know, Saquon Barkley's a huge example of this, you know, after he had that reverse hurdle, that was an insane play. His market went way up. You know, he's right borderline in that MVP conversation. And then, you know, the more mainstream things like him being on the cover of Madden, that's going to draw more people towards his market that maybe aren't even invested in sports cards, but they just want to get something cool for like a sports fan, things like that. That really drives a lot of volume in the lower end market. Those are kind of the top moments that I see a lot of impulse buying. The hype from moments like that doesn't stay around very long. It's a flash in the pan. The bank statement, that sticks around. So don't overinvest based off things like that. Very rarely it'll work out and continue to go up. I hope you guys found this helpful. I think that this comp culture is really just lazy investing. You're trying to buy things for 80% even though you know it's actually worth 50. It doesn't really work that way in any other market. Like, I don't think this is a one-to-one example of, you know, the stock market, because the stock market has a lot of different factors. But when you want to buy, you can't say, well, it's at $50 right now, I'd like to buy it at $40. No, that's not the way it works. For some reason, that's really taken hold of this hobby, is the idea that everything should be sold at 80% of comps. And actually, I think that's ruining your inventory. People miss out on deals all the time because they're trying to get things for an absolute steal. When if you feel confident and you've been doing this for a while, I pay full comps all the time and I still win on my cards because I can accurately predict when's this hype cycle going to be coming, which players are going to be popular in fantasy football, which players are people going to be watching more and more. This is stuff in here because of my interest in the sport that I can leverage later on in the season. For one, people like selling to me because I pay pretty strong on comps for players that I believe in. But when you do that, you really have to leverage your patience. Every day on Instagram this week, I've been turning down deals on cards because I want to hold them going into next season. I paid strong on them. Some of the comps are on eBay, and people are wanting to buy for 80% of what I bought them for on eBay. And obviously I can't do that. So I just have to wait for the rest of the market to catch up, for the mainstream eyes to kind of refocus on football, and then I can list them on eBay and they'll probably sell and I'll make a little bit of money on them. To me, that process is, for one, it feels less greedy. I don't feel like I'm trying to take advantage of people because I'm giving them more the price they want, and then I can hold cards that I think are cool and sell them for the price that I want. The people that are buying the cards feel excited about the player they're buying, and so they feel better about the purchase, you know? So overall, that's a pretty healthy hobby experience. When people come up to me and they pick up one card and they say, hey, I saw this is $50, comps are $50, could you do 40? And it's like, I'm more than willing to make a deal if I have room on stuff. You really have to earn, you know, the ability to go below what the card's selling for. The culture of this really started when people would go to card shows and they'd look at somebody's display case and they'd say, hey, that's $10,000. I'll give you $8,000 to take it all off your hands, and then I'm gonna go through all the dirty work and selling. Almost like you're doing it on consignment, but I'm just gonna get this horde of inventory from you. And somehow that's trickled down into just people in the hobby expect to pay less than the last person paid for a card. It's very odd to me. And people kind of get weird when you talk about it. I think that, and if you're one of those people, I really encourage you to do more research, to to spend more time in the hobby, be patient. Patient plays pay. I think it's just a very lazy approach, and it kind of weeds out the people that I think are serious about sports cards versus people that are just kind of doing it for a quick buck. You can't deny that a lot of us are in sports cards because you can make a little bit of money doing it. It's one of the things that I love. It's one of the things I was drawn to the hobby. It comes off very greedy when you're picking up a single card and you say, please give this to me for less than it's currently valued. That's a little tip for you guys to be aware of. It's something to work on. Don't be lazy. There are ways that you can pay strong and still win in this hobby. Respect the craft, sharpen the axe, get those reps in, understand the market, and then try to play chess while everybody else is playing checkers. If you can master comps and realize when to use them, when to lean in on them, how to leverage them, don't be manipulative, don't be a scumbag, but just learn how to make smart plays. Hopefully using some of these tips, you'll get there. If somebody is checking comps on you, if you're a buyer or a seller, just know when to have the smart play. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away. God, that was corny. But the way to level up your sports card business is to know when to challenge the numbers. So the best collectors, the people that win the most, are going to love the discipline in this hobby, and they're going to be able to walk away when it's shiny and sentimental, because trust me, there will always be more cards. If you guys have any examples of when you got burnt on a sports card, let me know down below. This was valuable. If you guys like videos like this, let me know. I'd love to make more of them for you. Just kind of sharing my thoughts on the process and sports cards. The business is leveling up, having a lot of fun doing it, just trying to lean in more and more as much as I can. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thanks for letting me talk your ear off.